Recently, I published a video in which I argued that the price of silver may one day reach no less than $4,000 an ounce. It's called Treasure Map, and you are invited to check it out. I explicitly said that this is only one scenario out of many, and that I can only see it happening in an extremely inflationary environment. Moreover, I explained that it won't happen overnight, but over the course of many years. Nevertheless, I got some flack for it. There were quite a few viewers who ridiculed my analysis and called me crazy. That's okay. I'm not offended by the criticism. Any person who makes bold predictions should expect to receive some pushback. And as someone who has been writing about precious metals for over a decade, I've had plenty of opportunities to develop a thick skin. But I was quite fascinated by people's reactions. Even among those who invest in physical silver, there is a widespread belief that its price is destined to remain more or less the same as it is today. They can imagine it rising by 10 or 20% per year. They can even imagine it reaching and surpassing its all-time high of $50 an ounce by the end of the decade. But they simply cannot accept the notion that it can go parabolic and reach many multiples of its current price within our lifetimes. Such predictions seem too extreme for them, or as one commentator told me, they sound unhinged. However, I'm not a bullion dealer nor a mining executive. I'm not trying to sell you anything, and I have no interest in giving people false hope. I have an engineering degree from one of the best universities in my country, and I've been taught how to think rationally and analytically. I do not make fanciful claims, and everything I say is based on the available data. In the past decade, I came to realize that silver is a unique case in the history of economics. It is both a useful commodity and a monetary metal, which is in short supply. It is mainly produced as a byproduct of the mining of other metals, and therefore its global supply is largely insensitive to the price. There is evidence to suggest that in recent decades its price has been artificially suppressed by governments and central banks who wish to perpetuate the fiat paradigm. Due to the rising inflation, this manipulation is unsustainable, and it is probably about to end. On top of this, there is an increasing number of industrial applications which require the unique properties of silver, and there simply isn't enough to go round. But the main reason why I think that the price of silver can really go berserk is the speculative drive which the public has adopted in recent years. People have learned that hard work and creativity no longer guarantee a decent life standard, and that successful speculation in real estate or in stocks is the only way to escape poverty. Silver is an asset which very few people own, and if just a tiny amount of the capital which is slushing around in the financial markets finds its way to silver, it can really catch fire. It has the potential to become a self-reinforcing phenomenon. A sudden increase in the price of silver, for instance, due to banks being forced to liquidate their short positions, will attract the attention of investors, who will start buying it and bidding up its price. This will attract even more attention, bringing in more capital, so on and so forth. And since the mining industry is almost unable to increase its production in response to a higher price, those investors will be competing over a limited supply. And the only way for the market to adjust will be an ever-increasing price. In scientific jargon, we call this phenomenon a positive feedback loop, and it has the potential to lead to dramatic gains. In most systems, there is some upper boundary, which puts a limit on the process. But in the case of silver, there is none. The price can theoretically rise as high as people are willing to pay. Granted, a rapid increase in the price will incentivize some people to sell their silver jewelry or their grandmother's silver spoons. But in order to turn these items into investment-grade products, they must first be refined. The global refining capacity is limited and unequipped to deal with a massive surge in demand. For instance, the 4 largest precious metals refiners in Switzerland have a combined refining capacity of only about 65 million ounces of silver per year. This is a major bottleneck, which most people fail to consider. I suspect that the increase in supply due to recycling will be smaller than what mainstream analysts are expecting, and that it will be negligible compared to the increase in investment demand. Another common assumption that analysts make is that any increase in the price will reduce the industrial demand for silver, putting a damper on the process and helping the market find a new balance point. That may be true in respect to price-sensitive industries, such as the photovoltaic industry. The price of silver is a substantial input in the cost of solar energy, and if its price rises too much, the demand for solar panels will indeed drop. But when it comes to consumer electronics, the price of silver plays no factor at all. The average smartphone, for instance, contains only 19 milligrams of silver, which currently costs less than 9 US cents. Even if the price of silver goes up 100-fold, this will not have a substantial impact on the price of smartphones, and the demand for them will not be affected. Moreover, the corporations who produce these electronic products may react to the rising price of silver in a counterintuitive way. Instead of reducing their demand, they may actually begin to hoard silver out of fear of a looming shortage and as preparation for further price increases. This will act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Since these high-tech giants are some of the wealthiest companies in the world, they have almost infinite resources in order to bid up the price of silver, and the resulting race to acquire as much of it as possible will bring about the shortage which they fear. This is another example of a positive feedback loop in the silver market, which analysts nowadays are failing to consider. Last but not least, let's have a look at the price action of silver between the years 1960 and 1980. At the beginning of this period, when silver coins were still in circulation in many countries around the world, the price of silver was artificially set at less than $1 per ounce. As inflationary pressures mounted, the US government allowed the price to rise to about $1.3 per ounce. After silver was demonetized, it became freely traded, and the price started to shoot up like a rocket. By 1974, it reached $6.5 an ounce, and after a few years of consolidation, it had another massive rally, briefly reaching as high as $48 an ounce in January of 1980. In other words, during this period, the price of silver went up 50-fold. If it were to repeat this move today, its price would reach quadruple digits. So how come people consider this scenario to be so outrageous? The answer is recency bias. People tend to think that whatever happened recently is likely to continue. And since in recent years the price of silver has been stagnant, they expect that to persist. They ignore the fundamentals. They ignore technical analysis. They even ignore silver's price action in the distant past. Their entire opinion of this asset is dictated by its lingering correction after 2011 and by the fact that it hasn't been able to set a new all-time high since then. They believe that by setting modest price targets for silver, they are being conservative and responsible. In my opinion, this is simply a poor evaluation of the situation we are in. Now, can I guarantee that silver is headed to the moon? Of course not. No one can predict the future. By some twist of fate, the global economy may enter a severe recession, which will reduce the industrial demand for silver to such an extent that a short squeeze will never take place, and that the large banks will be able to continue suppressing its price for years to come. But given the tightness in this market, and the tendency of governments around the world to deficit spend and to generate inflation, is that a likely scenario? I don't think so. In my mind, a silver squeeze is the most probable outcome. I'm personally positioning myself accordingly, and I recommend that you do the same. Thank you for listening to the Silver Hermit podcast. If you like this content, please donate in the link which appears in the description below. Please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and family. Hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I release a new video. Remember, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This video is intended for general informational purposes only and should not be regarded as investment advice. Before taking any investment decision, please consult with a professional financial advisor who may assess your personal investment objectives and needs.